The 2023 MLB trade deadline has come and gone, and as an MLB fan, what a time to be a baseball fan. I mean, these last 3 weeks have been action-filled, and hearing everyone's predictions and the anticipation is always something that makes this my favorite time of the year. Now that the deadline is passed, though, I will be looking at all of the moves that were made this deadline and recapping how I feel about them and my opinion on every team's moves. I'll only be talking about trades I feel like are real game changers and important trades, so if I skip over a trade you wanted to hear about, I'm very sorry. But with that being said, let's jump right into this. The first deal of this video, I'm going to be looking at a trade between the Dodgers and Red Sox, where the Dodgers sent two right-handed pitchers in Nick Robertson and Justin Hagman to Boston. Robertson has only pitched 10 innings in the bigs, all coming this year, and Hagman is a pitcher in AAA who has a 2.68 ERA this season. The Dodgers brought back Enrique Hernandez in this deal, who hasn't been very good, posting a negative .6 RWAR and a 67 OPS plus, which isn't the best, but he does play a ton of positions, so he provides utility for a team struggling up the middle for much production. Moving to the next trade is a trade I like for the Twins, as they add Dylan Floro and send Jorge Lopez back to the Marlins. For the Twins, Lopez had been underperforming all year, posting a 4.86 ERA with a 90 ERA+, so they shipped him to Miami for another reliever in Dylan Floro, who's slightly better as he has a 100 ERA+ with his 4.39 ERA. The next trade, we go back to the Dodgers, who added another middle infielder by bringing in Ahmed Rosario, who has struggled in Cleveland this season, posting a 91 OPS+, but a god-awful negative 15 DRS, which is why they sent him to LA for Noah Syndergaard. Syndergaard also had his fair struggles this year, posting a 6.68 ERA, but in his first start with the Guardians, he went 5 1/3 inning and allowed only one run, so hopefully he can keep that pace with Cleveland. I like this trade for both teams, as these were two guys that needed changes of scenery, and hopefully it can help them both in their career. The next trade, we take a look at the Angels, who actually bought this deadline, and in their first deal, they brought in starter Lucas Giolito and reliever Reynaldo Lopez from the Chicago White Sox. Giolito is one of the biggest pitchers on the market this year, and that's because he has posted a 3.85 ERA so far this season, and the Angels also brought in a decent bullpen arm as well in Reynaldo Lopez, who has had a 4 ERA on the year. Now, they probably overpaid a little bit, giving up two great prospects in catcher Edgar Quero and left-handed pitcher Kai Bush. These were two top 8 prospects in the Angels farm, and if they couldn't make a deep playoff run this year, this could turn bad for the Angels, but I like the deal for the Angels as of now. The next deal, the Marlins added the best reliever on the market and grabbed David Robertson from the Mets, who has a 2 ERA this season along with 15 saves. They did have to give up a hefty prospect though, as they gave up one of their top 10 prospects, Marco Vargas, and another top 15 prospect, catcher Ronald Hernandez. These prospects are both in the low levels of the minors and are a few years away from making the big leagues, but I think this is getting the rating of the best steal this deadline, and I think it was personally one of the best trades this deadline, as I love it for the Marlins trying to make the playoffs this year, and they add one of the best closers in the market. Jumping back to the Dodgers, they traded with the Chicago White Sox and brought in Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly. Now, this deal is very confusing to me, as Lance Lynn has been awful, posting the worst ERA among qualified starting pitchers at 6.47, but they brought in a reliever I liked a lot coming into this year's deadline, and that's Joe Kelly, who does have a 4.91 ERA, but a 3.24 FIP, which is why I wanted to see him go to a contender, but I think both of these players are pretty much wild cards at this point, and they didn't give up anything noticeable for them at all, sending Trace Thompson, who has an 83 OPS plus with a 155 batting average, along with two prospects who weren't even in the Dodgers' top 30, so this trade is just a little weird to me all around, and I don't know what to think. The next trade also includes the White Sox, as they send reliever Kendall Graveman to the Astros for catching prospect Corey Lee. I love this trade for the Astros, as they bring in a great reliever in Graveman, who has a 3.4 ERA so far this season, but they gave away a decent prospect as they sent one of their top 10 prospects in Corey Lee, who does have a 734 OPS in AAA as of now, but I still think the Astros were going to end up winning this trade. Now, moving to the first, I would say, blockbuster trade, and where I think this trade deadline started to heat up, as we saw the Mets send Max Scherzer to the Rangers in exchange for one prospect in Luis Angel Acuna, who, yes, is the younger brother of Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, I talked a lot about Scherzer in my previous video, so if you want to hear about that, you could check that video out, but I'll give a simplified version by saying that Scherzer is having a down year, posting a 4.01 ERA so far this season, but since the Rangers are only paying half the contract and only gave up one prospect, I think it was a good deal, and they improved their pitching staff by making this move. The one prospect they gave up in Luis Angel Acuna is good and will probably turn out to be a top 10 prospect in the Mets system, but I still think they easily won this trade, as they're only paying for half of Max Scherzer's contract and made an improvement in their roster. Another Rangers trade that I also talked about in my previous video was the Jordan Montgomery trade. In this trade, the Rangers brought in a sub 3.5 ERA pitcher, who I think was the second best lefty on the market behind Blake Snell, but they gave up two prospects who are now in the Cardinals' top 10 and a reliever in John King. I think this was a win-win trade for both sides as the Rangers got a very good pitcher in exchange for some good prospects. Moving to another Cardinals trade, we saw them send reliever Jordan Hicks to the Toronto Blue Jays for 2 prospects in Adam Kloffenstein and Sam Roberus. These two are both now in the top 15 prospects in the Cardinals system, and they sent away a rental reliever who they have hopes of bringing back next year, but he has a 3.67 ERA this season, which is why I think this is another win-win trade for both sides as the Blue Jays do need some bullpen help. Moving away from the Cardinals, we go back to the Angels where they brought in 2 good bats and outfielder Randall Grichuk, who has a 122 OPS plus, and first baseman CJ Cron, who has a 98 OPS plus. They did give up 2 good pitching prospects in Jake Madden and Mason Albright, who are both going to be in the top 30 prospects for the Colorado Rockies, so you could say that they may have given up a little bit too much once again, but I actually like this deal a lot for the Angels as it gives them a lot of flexibility with their bats and once again can hopefully help them with a deep playoff push. Going to the only Rays trade of today's video, we saw them make a deal with the Cleveland Guardians where they brought in pitcher Aaron Civale, who has posted a 2.34 ERA in 77 innings this year, but they would have to give up the number 34 prospect in all of baseball and first baseman Kyle Madrazo. I always love Rays prospects because they have a great farm system and a great way of making prospects turn into good players, so I think the Guardians made a splash bringing in Madrazo, but Civale will be a very good pitcher for Tampa Bay, so I think this was a great trade for both sides once again. Next trade I think is also a huge steal as the Mariners sent their closer Paul Sewald to the Arizona Diamondbacks for Josh Rojas and 2 prospects in Dominic Canzone and Ryan Bliss. Sewald has been fantastic this year, posting a 2.93 ERA and 21 saves, and has been one of the best relievers this year, and all they sent back was a Josh Rojas, who has a 593 OPS so far this year, and 2 top 15 prospects that were very log-jammed in Arizona. I think this was a runaway robbery for the Diamondbacks, and I love it for them. Moving to another deal I love, but just because I think the player is extremely underrated, in Jeimer Candelario, who got sent to the Cubs in exchange for 2 prospects in DJ Hurst and Kevin Made. I love this trade for the Cubs no matter how much I hate them as a team, as they did just bring in a guy who can play both corner infield spots at a good level while posting a 128 OPS plus. They did give up a top 15 prospect in their farm in DJ Hurst, but the other piece in Kevin Made wasn't ranked in the top 30, so I think they got a steal in bringing in Candelario. Going back to another NL Central team, we go back to the Cardinals as they sent shortstop Paul DeJong to the Toronto Blue Jays once again for pitching prospect Matt Savance. DeJong has had a pretty mid-year, posting a 93 OPS plus with a 1 DRS, but the Cardinals didn't get too good of a return, grabbing a prospect who wasn't in the Toronto's top 30, but when you're doing a fire sale like the Cardinals were, anything comes in handy. Moving to another blockbuster deal, we saw Justin Verlander go back to the Astros only a half season after leaving them and signing with the Mets, but the Mets got 2 great prospects in return in Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford, who are both outfielders and both rated in the Astros top 5, as Gilbert was their number 1 prospect and the 49th ranked prospect in baseball according to Fangraphs, along with the 4th prospect in the Astros system in Ryan Clifford. The Astros are getting back Justin Verlander, who has a 3.15 ERA and another year of control, but I think the Mets personally won this deal, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Next trade we saw I loved once again as the Phillies added all-star Michael Lorenzen, who's having a great year posting a 3.58 ERA, and I think is going to boost his pitching staff, but they gave up a pretty good prospect in number 5 prospect infielder Hao Yu Lee. I still like this trade for the Phillies though, as I think this team needs a lot of help, as I don't think they're a deep playoff team, but we'll have to see what Michael Lorenzen and this team can do. Final trade of today's video, we take a look at the final trade of the Cardinals fire sale as we saw them send Jack Flaherty to the Orioles for 3 prospects in infielder Cesar Prieto and lefty pitcher Drew Rom and righty pitcher Zach Showalter. All 3 prospects the Cardinals received are expected to be in the team's updated top 30, and they gave up a mediocre Jack Flaherty who's in the last year of his deal with a 4.43 ERA, which is why I think the Cardinals easily won this trade. That's all the trades I wanted to talk about in my recap of this year's trade deadline. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.